If we would like to convert 3/5 into a percentage, we have quite a few different methods that we could use. The first method is converting 3/5 into an equivalent fraction out of 100. Because a percentage is a fraction out of 100, as soon as we have our denominator as 100, your numerator will automatically be your percentage. So what do we need to do to 5 to get 100? We times it by 20, so we multiply our 3 by 20 as well to get 60. So now, because we've got 60 over 100, 60% is our answer. So that's your first method that you can use. You just convert your fraction, any fraction, into an equivalent fraction out of 100, and then your numerator will be your percentage. But with some fractions, we cannot get the denominator into 10, 100, or 1,000 easily, so therefore it's better to use one of the other methods. Right, so if we've got 3/5, and we would like to convert our 3/5 into a percentage, once again, what we can do is we can multiply it by 100 over 1, and that will get us directly into our percentage. So multiplying any fraction by 100 over 1 will get you straight into your percentage. So let's cross cancel and simplify. 5 into itself once, 5 into 120 times 3 times 20 is 60, and 1 times 1 is 1. So we've got 60 over 1, or 60%. So that's exactly the same as what we got for our first method. If we have a look at another method that we can use to convert fractions into percentages, we can convert our fraction firstly into a decimal and then multiply that decimal by 100 to get your percentage. So 3/5 into a decimal, we can convert it to 6 over 10 because these fractions are equivalent, and 6 over 10 into a decimal is 0.6. Another way of converting 3/5 into a decimal is saying 3.000 divided by 5, and 5 into 3 goes 0 times. We bring up our decimal point. 5 then into 30 goes 6 times with nothing left over, so we don't actually need those place values there. So again, we get 0.6. And what we need to do now is converting 0.6 or 0.60 into a percentage. So now we are working with decimals to percentages. We multiply by 100. So 0.6 multiplied by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, even though we remember that it's actually our numbers that are moving to the left because they are coming 2 placeholders bigger, or place values bigger rather. So we end up with 60% because that's 0.6 multiplied by 100 is 60. So we end up with an answer of 60% there, just like what we got for our previous 2 methods. So you can use method 1, 2, or 3 in order to convert your fraction, any fraction, into a percentage. You can just use whichever one you are most comfortable with, or whichever one suits that particular fraction best. So let's just put here 3/5 as a percentage is 60%, no matter what method we use. Let's have a look at converting 7/8 into a percentage. So again, we're going to consider our 3 different methods. Firstly, we've got 7/8 into an equivalent fraction out of 100. But what we will see with 7/8 is that our denominator 8 doesn't fit into 100 perfectly. So we will first convert our fraction into an equivalent fraction out of 1,000. So we multiply 8 by 125 to get 1,000. So we multiply our 7 by 125 to get 875 over 1000. And then we can get an equivalent fraction out of 100. So what do we do to 1000 to get 100? We divide it by 10. So then we divide our numerator by 10 as well. And 875 divided by 10 is equal to 87.5. Right, so dividing by 10, we bring in 1 decimal point. Dividing by 10, we bring in 1 decimal point, a decimal place, and we end up with 87.5 over 100. And remember that as soon as your denominator is 100, your numerator will automatically be your percentage. So we end up with a percentage of 87.5%. So 7/8 as a percentage is 87.5. Right, let's have a look at our second method. 7/8 multiplied by 100 over 1 will give us our percentage directly. So because we can cross cancel between, or we can simplify and cross cancel between 8 and 100, we can do that. But what I'd like to do is rather just multiply 7 by 100 to get 700 over 8, because 8 times 1 is 8. And then we're going to put 700 inside our division house and 8 outside our division house, because 700 over 8 is equal to 700 divided by 8. So we remember to put our numerator inside the house and our denominator outside the house. Right, so 8 into 7 doesn't go. 8 into 70 fits 8 times. 8 times 8 is 64, and the difference between 64 and 70 is 6. So we carry our 6 over. 8 into 60 goes 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. So the difference between 56 and 60 is 4. So we carry our 4 over and we bring our decimal point up, and 8 into 40 fits 5 times. So we end up with a percentage of 87.5, as you can see there. So that method is slightly trickier when we are working with the denominator and the numerator that do not perfectly cross cancel to get just ones as our denominator. So that method doesn't work. So this is probably the trickiest method to use when our denominator doesn't fit perfectly into 100. Let's now have a look at our third method. 7/8 now converted into a decimal, and then we multiply our decimal by 100 to get our percentage. This is the method that I find the easiest when we are working with a denominator that doesn't fit perfectly into 100. So 7/8 as a decimal is 0.875, and we can do that. We can work that out in a similar way to what we have done here. So it would more just look like 7.000 divided by 8, and 8 into 7 goes 0 times, and we would end up with 875 there. So we end up with 0.875 as our decimal, and then we just need to convert our decimal now into a percentage, and we do that by multiplying by 100. So any decimal multiplied by 100, we go from the decimal point and we go 1, 2 places to the right, and that is because we are multiplying by 100, which has 2 zeros. So 0.875 multiplied by 100 is again 87.5, and that is our percentage. So as you can see, for the first method, the second method, and the third method, we end up with an answer of 87.5%. So 7/8 as a percentage is equal to 87.5. If we would like to convert 85% into a fraction, we need to remember that a percentage is any number that's out of 100. So 85 will therefore be our numerator. 85 over 100 is equal to 85%. So therefore 85% as a fraction is 85 over 100. And all we need to do now is simplify this fraction. So we divide both 85 and 100 by 5. And we end up with 17 over 20. So 85% as a simplified fraction is 17 over 20. Right, let's have a look at 19%. 19% will give us 19 over 100, and we cannot simplify 19 over 100 any further. So quite simply, 19% is equal to 19 over 100 as a fraction. Let's have a look at 37.5%. 37.5%, again, we take our number there, and that will be our numerator, so 37.5, and we put that over 100 to show that that is a percentage. So 37.5 over 100 is our fraction for 37.5%, but obviously we would like to simplify that. It is difficult to simplify when we are working with decimals in our fraction. So what we'd like to do is multiply both our numerator and our denominator by 10 so that we end up with whole numbers. So 37.5 multiplied by 10 will give us 375, and that will give us 100 times 10 will give us 1000. So we end up with 375 over 1000. We can divide both our 375 and our 1000 by 125 to get a simplified answer of 3/8. So 37.5% as a simplified fraction is 3/8. Let's have a look at 75%. 75% is equal to 75 as our numerator, 100 as our denominator, and we obviously now just need to simplify it. So 75 over 100, we can divide both our numerator and our denominator by 25 to get 3/4. So 75% as a simplified fraction is 3/4. Right, let's have a look at 62.5%. Again, when we are working with decimals, the same rule applies. We still need to put our number as our numerator and 100 as our denominator, and then we just multiply our numerator and our denominator by 10 so that we've got whole numbers. So we're working now with 625 over 1000, and we can divide both 625 and 1000 by 125 to get an answer of 5/8. So 62.5% as a simplified fraction will give us an answer of 5/8. Whenever we are converting a decimal into a percentage, we multiply that decimal by 100. So let's have a look at some examples. 0.92 as a decimal into a percentage, all we need to do is multiply it by 100. So we go from our decimal point 2 places to the right to get 92%. If we have a look at 0.4 into a percentage, all we need to do is multiply our 0.4 by 100, so we can put in some placeholders, and we then move our decimal point 2 places to the right because we are making the number 100 times bigger. So we end up with an answer of 40.0, or just 40%. If we are looking at 0.05 as a decimal, converting that into a percentage, all we need to do is multiply our 0.05 by 100 to get 5%, because we move our decimal point 2 places to the right. 0.278 into a percentage, again, all we need to do is multiply our 0.278 by 100 to get 27.8%. Let's have a look at one more example. 9.02 into a percentage. Even though we have got a whole number here, the same rule still applies. So we will have a percentage that is over 100%, but that is fine. 9.02 into a percentage, we multiply by 100 to get 902%. When we are converting from percentages into decimals, we need to divide by 100. Let's have a look at 37.8%. 37.8% as a decimal. All we need to do is divide our percentage by 100. So we go from our decimal point now 2 places to the left, because we are making this number 100 times smaller. So we end up with an answer of 0.378. Right, let's have a look at 0.9%. So this is a very small percentage, which means we are going to get a very small decimal as well. So converting 0.9% into a decimal, we again divide by 100. So we go from our decimal point, can put in some placeholders, we bring in 1, 2 decimal places, and we end up with 0.009 as a decimal. Right, if we have got 7% and we would like to convert that 7% into a decimal, we just need to go from our decimal point, which is at the end of our whole number, and divide it by 100. We can put in some placeholders. So 7.0 divided by 100, we move it 1, 2 places to the left. 0.07 is our answer. 85% as a decimal, we again just need to divide by 100. So we go from our point 0, take our decimal point 1, 2 places to the left, put in your placeholders, and you end up with 0.85. Let's have a look at 27.3%. 27.3%, we divide by 100 to get our decimal. We bring in 1, 2 decimal places, put in our placeholders, and we end up with 0.273 as a decimal.